by the pioneering founder of Rebel News, a man who is a Canadian human rights activist, frees the new UK government in terms of controlling illegal immigration at all. In fact, it's almost like they want to pretend illegal immigration is no longer an issue. We're just going to call it irregular migration, age men, many criminals, to stay in the country.
Right. I mean, that's one way to solve the problem of illegal immigration is just rename it. Canada has gone one further. We have quadrupled the number of legal migrants to Canada. I don't even think we acknowledge any of them are illegal. Tens of thousands of people who come here on student visas, for example, once they're across the border, they simply declare themselves to be asylum seekers. I want to say the UK's policy doesn't just affect the UK. People get in the dinghy, cross the channel. Once they're in the UK, they can make their way to Northern Ireland and then just walk across the border. And it's actually causing a cascading problem in Ireland. I met a bunch of migrants in just outside of Dublin who were all full of British slang, like, hey, gov, just using fun British slang that they don't use in Pakistan, that they don't say in Syria. I felt like I was on the streets of London or Manchester. These fake refugees have been hanging out in the UK, and either they thought they might be sent to Rwanda in the past, I don't know, or they thought they could get a richer deal in Ireland, but now there are tens of thousands of fake refugees in that country that pass through the UK. It's crazy.
It is, and I really want to talk to you about your reporting in Ireland, actually, because it's been fascinating to see this country, which is actually considered pretty socially conservative, go extreme woke and allow their country to be overrun. So what I'll do is set it up with some of your reporting, and I can get you to contextualize as we go along. So this was a really fascinating interview that you conducted with the local councillor, Glenn Moore.
It feels like dark times, that your people are killing each other over something that we feel we should have control of. We don't want this country to be flooded with thousands, hundreds of thousands of undocumented males. Like, you keep saying women and children, it's not. We have the videos. Everybody has videos, thousands upon thousands of videos. Like, it's lies upon lies upon lies, and people are waking up going like, there's something wrong. It's a sinister feeling the Irish people have. And that's what's causing people to show up.
Such powerful words. And also, Ezra, you spoke to a local Irish woman who was protesting, who also reflected that sort of anxiety.
Thanks for coming over, really appreciate it. We have obviously nobody to speak on our behalf except for we've one local media, but I want to know what the plan is. Bringing all these men into Ireland, young single men, putting them in a tent. What is the plan?
And Ezra, how astonishing that it's you and it's Rebel News, a brilliant Canadian independent outlet that is giving a voice to the ordinary people of Ireland, because the MSM in both the United Kingdom and Ireland has become so corrupt.
You know, I've traveled to probably half a dozen countries to see how mass migration is handled. I've been to the Netherlands. I've been to France. Of course, I've been to the UK. I have to say, Dan, that the Irish are the first community I've seen push back en masse. That city councillor you showed a moment ago, Glenn Moore, he's an elected city councillor. When he attended at a protest, he was pepper sprayed by police, but he didn't bend the knee. Let me just tell you a really quick story about that place. You probably saw those tall concrete blocks. There is an abandoned paint factory in Dublin that's huge, and it's empty. And the government suddenly decided they're going to put in at least 500, but maybe many more single military-aged migrant men there. Just put them in the factory and turn it into, I don't know, like a urban refugee camp, except for right across the street is a kids play place and a kids movie theater and a Burger King. And the local community is saying, what are you doing? You're putting 500 single men right across the street from basically playgrounds. And that neighborhood called Kulak is a lower income neighborhood. So they're already deprived of services. They don't have a lot. And the government has just announced, ta-da, fait accompli, 500 men moving into that neighborhood. So there have been daily protests. Some local Irish youth threw a couple of bottles at police. So boom, in come the riot cops, pepper spraying and beating everybody. But the Irish don't bend the knee, and they've come back again and again. One more anecdote. I visited a tiny village called Dundrum. About 180, 200 people live there, very small, and there's a beautiful country hotel. Dan, the government has struck a deal with that hotel to stop using it as a hotel, kill the tourism in that little village, and to bring in 280 single military-age migrant men. So the town has less than 200 people. It's a village. But the government has announced it's bringing in 280 migrant men. There's no consultation, there's no engagement, there's no appeal, there's no discussion. It's just in one fell swoop they will end centuries of Irish life in Dundrum. And this is happening all over Ireland. But I've mentioned I've studied this issue in half a dozen countries. Ireland is the first place I've seen fighting back in the way they are. And it's very interesting to see. And I bet you feel that way as a Brit. You're a lot closer to it.
Indeed. And what was great is that you also tracked down some of these migrants, and while they didn't answer, I think they're part of the issue. They need to be given a chance to have a say. So this is what happened there.
Aren't refugees usually women and children? Did you guys destroy your documents before you came over? I hear that happens a lot, that people get on a plane, but then they shred their documents. Did you guys do that?
And what sort of behavior are these migrants bringing to Ireland? Not those specific men, I should point out, but you've posted this really shocking video of a woman in a supermarket who was horrified when a migrant started to take pictures of her children.
What are you doing taking pictures of my child?
Sorry.
What are you doing taking pictures of my child?
Just for me.
Why are you doing? He's after being taking pictures of my child. He's after taking a picture of my child. He's after taking a picture of my child.
I do it.
Who are you taking pictures of? Stop me taking pictures of my child.
And I mean, this is happening every day, Ezra. These sorts of incidents.
Taking pictures is the least of it, as we know from the UK, whether it's in Rochdale or Telford or Rotherham. Things can get much worse, and these grooming gangs that typically are foreign nationals come in and target what used to be a high trust society. Imagine a small town in rural Ireland. Everyone knows everyone. You know what I mean by a high trust society? Everyone looks out for each other. When we were in Dundrum, people said, "Who are you? What are you doing taking pictures?" Because we were filming the street, and even just filming the street, locals said, "Who are you?" And that might seem suspicious or paranoid, but that's how a town looks after itself. You bring in hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of foreigners who come from a low trust society where women are not allowed out on the streets precisely because they'll be taken advantage of, where kids don't play out in the streets precisely because there are marauders. What we see is a clash between immigrants from a low trust society being dumped, and I say dumped because they're just planting hundreds of them in this town of Dundrum. And the Irish, I think, are being erased, and I say that because they're the indigenous people of their land. The Irish never colonized anyone. The Irish, didn't move there. The Irish never took slaves. In fact, they themselves were taken as slaves by the Barbary pirates. So here you've got the local indigenous community that's been there for thousands of years, and they're saying, what is happening to us? And I don't understand why the Irish government, including nationalists like Sinn Féin, who I thought were so Ireland for the Irish, why is everyone trying to destroy the Irish nature of that country. That I do not understand, Dan.
No, it is extraordinary that even Sinn Féin has gone woke on certain issues. Sort of a bit of a bizarre twist of events. But look, if we look at this from a macro level, Ezra, the importance of the independent media has never been more acute. Rebel News, obviously Canadian-based, you've made a big difference there, but you are interested in taking your guerrilla form of reporting around the world.
Yeah, we've had success. For example, we have a great journalist, I know you've talked to him before, Avi Yamini, based in Melbourne, Australia.
Yes, great guy.
Which was really a hot spot for the lockdowns during COVID.
Yeah.
We also, every year, we go to Davos, Switzerland, to the World Economic Forum. Now, we're not allowed in. They never accredit us, but we do sort of street journalism. I don't know if you ever saw it, but a couple of years ago, I bumped into the CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla, just on the street, along with Avi, and we peppered him with questions. Again, didn't get a lot of answers, but putting the questions to dead silence tells a story, too. I really believe, Dan, that in this day and age, if you've got a smartphone, you can be a journalist. And I think all you need is a little bit of courage and the ability to go and tell a story. And I think that, as you're showing with your program, anyone can break through the old cartel. It used to be only a handful of channels run by a handful of decision makers, really gatekeepers. That era is over, and now everyone can have their say.
Yeah, and thank God for that, because as you know, I was in the mainstream media. I tried to do it from within the system. I was shut down, and I now believe it is only organizations like Rebel News that are going to hold these governments to account, but also critically, as you say, in terms of your reporting from Davos, hold the globalist organizations to account. And of course, when it comes to politicians, you are one of the biggest critics of Justin Trudeau. But I wanted to play this clip from another independent Canadian media outlet that you have praised in recent days, the Counter Signal, that managed to track down Trudeau on a beach. It feels like he's been trying to avoid any real scrutiny from anyone other than patsy journalists who are in his pocket. And it was quite an extraordinary confrontation. So let's have a watch and I'll get you to respond off the back.
I ask you though, sir. I'll just ask you super quickly. Your minister said they're going on vacation. No, don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me.
More than any political leader on the face of the earth, Justin Trudeau carefully manages his media appearances. Who's allowed access to him? Who can get into press conferences? Who he'll arrest if they get too close? Who he'll sit down for an interview with? You had your media advance call the RCMP because I was going to ask questions that you didn't want. I wasn't the CBC, I wasn't CTV, I wasn't Global News, so you had to get arrested, so we came out. Following his catastrophic by-election loss in Toronto, the Prime Minister has gone into hiding. He refuses to call a caucus meeting, and his administration is hanging on by a thread.
The line is right here. Okay. Sure, thank you. Are you looking for a replacement right now?
No, I am absolutely not. I am running in the next election.
Are you concerned at all about your poll numbers?
No.
How good was that, Ezra? Because initially it was like he wanted a full-on physical confrontation, and eventually he realized, actually, I'm going to have to talk to this independent journalist from the Counter Signal.
Yeah, that's Cian Bexley. I'm proud to say he's an alumnus of Rebel News, and he's doing great.
He's one of yours.
Well, I mean, I can't take credit for his latest work, which was his own idea, but I love that style. Cian figured out where Trudeau was going to be on vacation, and you can see he went in very low-key, just with his cell phone, not a big, old-fashioned legacy media camera. So he and his camera person went in very low profile. They saw Trudeau on the beach after scoping him out for hours. Now, you saw that Trudeau had his security detail with him, but Cian managed to get right face-to-face with Trudeau. There was a bit of a tense exchange, but you're exactly right. Trudeau quickly did the math and realized if he were to have Kean arrested or shoved away by police, it would look awful. So he did give him 10 minutes. And Kean got some good questions in. Trudeau really pushed back, saying, "You're interrupting me on my vacation. How dare you? I work harder than most Canadians." That's not a good thing for a politician to say, especially when times are tight economically. Anyway, it was very exciting. And no legacy journalist would have done that. They wouldn't have had the entrepreneurial spirit to do it, and they would never have done something that might damage their friendship with the ruling elite. The legacy media, not just in Canada, but I'm sure it's the same in the UK and around the world, they value their connections and their influence. They want to be invited to the Christmas parties. Kean Bexley, the young journalist there, valued getting his questions in more than staying friends with the PM. I thought it was great journalism.
Now, look, I want to talk about the developing situation across the border from Canada. I called it cray-cray earlier. I mean, this presidential race is already going mad. We, of course, had this really random clip of Kamala Harris speaking with Joe Biden on the phone.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And it is my great honor to have Joe's endorsement in this race.
And then overnight, Donald Trump has gone all out attacking Kamala.
And by the way, Kamala will not be your first female president. She will not be your first female president. It's not the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to have a socialist. Look, we're not going to be a socialist nation. We're not going to have a socialist president, especially any female socialist president. We're not going to have it. We're not going to put up with it. It's not going to happen.
Now, obviously, the left is up in arms, accusing Trump of terrible sexism there. But what do you make of it all?
It's been the most incredible 10 days in U.S. politics, I think, since the Kennedy assassination. And I choose that on purpose because Donald Trump came within a half inch of being killed. And by the way, the Secret Service's explanations are astonishingly weak. As you may know, the head of the Secret Service resigned in disgrace. I think it was just yesterday. And then if they couldn't take Trump out, they realized that he would beat Biden. And so in the most bizarre manner, Biden, who hadn't been seen in public for nearly a week, just issued a written statement on Twitter. Who signed it? Was he under duress? Did he have his full mental capacity? He still hasn't given a proper address to the nation. It's very odd. And by the way, I know that in the UK and Canada there are parliamentary systems where parties can choose their own leader based on who's an MP. But that's not the American way. The American system has a president from outside the legislature. So how do you choose it? Well, you have the primary process. You have party members, millions of them vote. They didn't do that. Kamala Harris was chosen by the donors, I think. We don't even know who chose her. She has not gone through any of the system. It would be like, when Rishi Sunak became PM, at least he was an MP to begin with. It would be as if someone from outside Parliament altogether were simply appointed the Prime Minister and was never scrutinized or put through a process. It is so unusual, so anti-democratic, but I'm worried it might even work, Dan.
Well, indeed, because she's an empty vessel, isn't she? But she's the globalists' empty vessel. She is their choice. I mean, I love these comparisons, by the way, to the TV show Veep, because it is like we are watching a real-life Veep take place at the moment. But on the serious side, Ezra, as you point out, it feels like now leaders are being chosen by their puppet masters and anti-democratic coups on a regular basis. So in the UK, we saw the defenestration of both Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. Rishi Sunak, despite having been rejected by his own party in an overwhelming vote, within weeks was parachuted in. And yes, he was an MP, I give you that, but it was anti-democratic. He was not voted in by anyone to be Prime Minister, not his own MPs, not his own party members, and certainly not the British public. And with Kamala, what's incredible, isn't it, is it was the night of the debate. They realized we can't keep up this farce with Biden anymore. We've got to do something. And all of a sudden, the globalist political establishment cranks up into gear, and we're left with potentially the next president of the United States of America who hasn't gone through a democratic process. I think it is quite extraordinary. We are going to see Joe Biden tonight, aren't we? In an 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. UK time address from the Oval Office. But there's loads of questions, don't you think, about that, Ezra? Is it really going to be live? Has he written his speech? I mean, we do not know quite how serious the health condition that Joe Biden is suffering is right now. Is it really just COVID, or is there something more serious going on, given he could barely even walk up the steps to Air Force One?
And the lack of curiosity by the legacy media is astounding. We had about 2 weeks of real media criticism when they were trying to knock Biden out of office, like after his disastrous debate performance, where he clearly had some seniors moments, so to speak. The media said, all right, we're going to do more accountability journalism on Biden than we have in the last 4 years. That's over now. And the rehabilitation of Kamala Harris is in full gear. My reference to Rishi Sunak, you're right. The way he was imposed in the UK was very undemocratic. But with Kamala Harris, there wasn't even that fig leaf of, well, he actually won a local election in his district. Kamala Harris was just appointed. We don't even know the process. We don't even know if it's legal. She's a terrible communicator. Remember, she washed out of the primary 4 years ago without even 1% of the vote. She is grating. She has the personality and likability of Hillary Clinton. In terms of her ideology, she was literally ranked the most left-wing senator in the entire U.S. Senate, further to the left than Bernie Sanders. 100 out of 100. She was that far left. She's an extremist. She was put in charge of border security. What a laugh that is. She was a supporter of the Black Lives Matter rioters, and I say that because she literally fundraised for the rioters who was jailed. She is hardcore left-wing on all racial set-asides. She's a disaster in foreign policy. She refused to even show up for Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington. She is a disaster, but don't think she can't be puffed up by 5 or 10 points in the polls with a total wall-to-wall support from the regime media. I don't think Donald Trump, who I thought a week ago Donald Trump was pretty much set to win, it is very much in play, and the deep state will do literally anything to stop Trump from winning.
Totally. Look, I am not one of these people who is relaxed about a Trump victory happening at all, because you've seen, as you say, the whole system come in behind Kamala Harris. It's interesting, you speak about the regime media. I was watching some of CNN's primetime coverage last night because I just wanted to know myself quite how biased they were. And my goodness, you would think Kamala Harris was a cross between Margaret Thatcher and Barack Obama, given the way that they were talking about her. This is coverage that I agree will have an impact on the polls. And this is all of the sort of electoral interference that goes on in a race like this. So I think Trump should be very concerned. Obviously, in hindsight, it was a big mistake for both the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign to have this unprecedented debate so early, because if they'd just left it at the normal time, he would have been the nominee. It would have been too late to get him off the ticket. So that was a mistake for both parties.
Yeah. You know, remember that Joe Biden in the 2020 elections barely even campaigned. And he said, I forget the reasons they actually used. I think it was COVID.
It was during the COVID crisis, wasn't it?
So he didn't have big rallies. Everything was little video clips from the bunker. Like, I don't even think he traveled. I think that was to cover up how weak he was even back then. So if they can shove Joe Biden across the finish line when he was that cognitively disabled, I expect they'll run a repeat of that with Kamala Harris to avoid her from that cackling laugh, to avoid her saying crazy things, you know, in spur of the moment. I think you're going to have a very controlled, very they'll just titrate her out in little drips and drops to control the message. And Donald Trump has a fight ahead of him. And remember, Republicans have to win beyond the margin of cheating, beyond the margin of lawyering. I mean, if Donald Trump's going to win this thing, it can't be a narrowly fought thing. And I think you're in for a few crazy months. And the whole world is in the balance, not just America, but think of Russia, Ukraine, think of Taiwan, China, think about the Middle East. Everything turns on the U.S. election, everything.
This is so consequential. So thank God for Rebel News, keeping these politicians honest. Really recommend everyone give you a follow on YouTube, because you are such a brilliant source, and I've loved everything that you've done over the past few years. So Ezra Levant, so great to have you for the first time on Outspoken today, but please come back soon.
I will. Thanks for being so welcoming. Cheers.
Ezra, thank you. Now look, stand by for Prince Harry's disgusting new tell-all interview, which we'll show you and analyse with my superstar panel, Kinsey, Schofield and Calvin Robinson, in just 1 minute. But first, you know I have promised to talk to you about products on this show that are actually life-changing. Now this one is really fun, a little bit more personal, but let me tell you, the fellas watching are going to completely get it, and the ladies would do very well to treat their husband or boyfriend, because it really is a game changer. Remember, us men want our grooming routine to be a one and done deal. Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and privates are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. So introducing the Beard and Balls bundle, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger. And I know what it sounds like, but we're not actually talking about this sort of lawnmower. You can actually get precision trimming for all areas, even the sensitive ones, and get your man manicured as freshly cut grass. So I'm talking about a trimmer for the moneymaker, another for the boys downstairs. This trimmer gets it right the first time, being gentle on the skin in all the delicate places. And with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, you can choose between a precise trim or a smooth finish. And did I mention it's waterproof, so you can trim in the shower and avoid making a mess everywhere. Next, let's talk about the Beard Hedger, because whether you are going for a neat stubble or a full-on lumberjack look, this trimmer has you covered. It features a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options, which means you can achieve any style you want with just one small twist of the zoom wheel. And like the lawnmower, the Beard Hedger is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or the shower even, without worrying about water damage. And with up to 60 minutes of runtime and an LED charge indicator, you'll never be caught mid-trim or with a dead battery. It genuinely is such a gentle product. No more cuts. You can keep your loved one happy, and it will increase your confidence. Plus, the great news is today you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. I repeat, 20% off and free shipping. Just type Outspoken into the code box at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results. Just efficient, effective grooming wherever you need it. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. And now, back to the show. And it's time for my superstar panel. And we're kicking off today with the wonderful Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. We will be joined shortly by Father Calvin Robinson as well, who is part of our uncancelled after show today. But look, Prince Harry has done it again, deciding to criticise his family in a bombshell new interview with ITV. So I'm going to take you through all of the key moments, and Kinsey and I will analyse as we go. So let's kick off. This sets the whole thing up. Effectively, this is ITV's attempt to get Prince Harry to speak out using the veneer of media manipulation and phone hacking by the tabloid press over 20 years ago. Watch the trailer.
And yet for many, the pain endures. Not least for a prince who continues to fight.
This is a David versus Goliath situation. The Davids are the claimants, and the Goliath is this vast media enterprise.
And it's not just the rich and famous.
This wasn't salacious gossip. We were just normal people who got involved in a horrific incident.
Recent claims go even further. Burglary.
The whole door had been taken off its hinges.
eavesdropping on people's live phone calls and blagging their private information. As one courtroom battle concludes, other Fleet Street giants face trial. Now accusations of cover-ups against some newspapers
It is clear to me that we were not told the full truth.
have reignited this controversy,
The Yard covered it up.
giving some new drive in their fight for the truth.
I don't think there's anybody else in the world that is better suited to be able to see this through than myself. I'm trying to get...
Now, Kinsey, there's lots to talk about in terms of Harry's actual claims, and we'll play them and analyse as we go on. But can I just point out, first of all, that woke ITV, the UK's biggest commercial broadcaster, is now doing the bidding for the Duke of Sussex, because this story is long gone, Kinsey. Folk have gone to jail. Newspapers have shut down. This happened 20 years ago. And what I think people need to remember is that Harry has this special relationship with ITV via Tom Bradby, the host of ITV News, and via the chief executive of ITV as well, who you'll remember Meghan Markle actually contacted to get Piers Morgan the sack when he criticised her for lying after her interview with Oprah Winfrey. So I think we have to look at all of this, right, through the lens of ITV effectively now choosing to be a propaganda vehicle for Harry. And I presume that's because Prince William was so annoyed with them that he's ended the friendship with Tom Bradby.
Yeah, and don't forget, when Tom Bradby sat down and interviewed Prince Harry for his book Spare, he didn't challenge Prince Harry when he was clearly dishonest. Specifically, when Tom Bradby asked him about those racism allegations that were made in the Oprah Winfrey interview, and Harry pushed back and said, I never said anyone was racist. And Tom Bradby just kind of sat there with his mouth wide open instead of being like, actually, play the clip. We have the receipts. You did. We need you to be a little bit more upfront and honest with us about this. So why would we trust this venue to give us anything from Prince Harry that we are going to take beyond with a grain of salt? I mean, the idea that Prince Harry is going to be the face of truth, and it boggles the mind that he can conceive that this is something that most of the public could swallow, when in the Oprah interview alone, there were 17 discrepancies with the truth. I just think that this is a very bizarre hill for Prince Harry to die on, the idea of the truth, when everything we've seen from him and Meghan Markle over the last 4 years has been highly manipulated propaganda. They're trying to get the American public to buy their jam, buy their books, watch their cooking shows. And in the meantime, they've lied. They've lied about the Princess of Wales. They've lied about Prince William. And I do believe that it's unethical to do some of these things. But as you've said, we no longer in the media, nowhere would you find anybody that would say today that was the route to go. The tide has changed already. There's no reason to dwell on the past when going forward, you're never going to see somebody approve any type of behavior like that.
No, absolutely not. But Harry is driven by personal vengeance. Harry wants Piers Morgan in jail, for example. That's what this is about. Look, let's go through some of the individual clips. This is Harry celebrating the judge's ruling in his case against the Daily Mirror. He's trying to set himself up here effectively as some sort of game changer.
When you got the judge's ruling that you had been hacked, what was your reaction?
To go in there and come out and have the judge rule in our favour was obviously huge, but for him to go as far as he did with regard to, this wasn't just the individual people, this went right up to the top. This was lawyers, this was high executives, and to be able to achieve that in a trial, and that's a monumental victory.
Was it a monumental victory, really, Kinsey? Was it really? Because, as you say, we already knew that phone hacking was going on. Someone already went to jail. There was already a newspaper shut down as a result of it. This was all about trying to get a financial deal with the Daily Mirror. I don't see it as some sort of monumental victory. Do you?
I mean, I think that it's the first step for him and what he considers to be, aside from perhaps Invictus. I believe that he thinks that this is his legacy project, and this is something that he's doing, in honor and loving memory of Princess Diana. So perhaps he does believe that this is a big deal because Dan, he's had a pretty hard last 4 years. Maybe he takes his wins. Maybe they're big celebrations because there are so few of them. But I agree with you. I just think, stop tooting your own horn. Let it go. Be a little humble. And maybe you might change a couple of people's hearts about you, but it's hard to sympathize with you for when people violated your privacy. When I flip through the pages of Spare and read you violating the Princess of Wales's privacy, poor Princess Catherine.
Literally, you put her private messages, right, in a book read by millions and millions of people to try and prove some ridiculous point that she made Meghan cry, which we know is not the truth, by the way. But that was an invasion of privacy, actually arguably worse than phone hacking. Also, Kinsey, and I don't want to get graphic here, he revealed personal details about Prince William's private parts in Spare. He revealed a private conversation between the king and his sons after his own father, the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. I mean, this is not a guy actually who should be complaining privacy at all. But look, he's also going to infuriate William, and part of me thinks he now does this on purpose because he invokes Princess Diana in this new interview.
Every day.
Remember, every day. And this was the one thing that him and William made that pact about. I think it was back in 2017 on the 20th anniversary of Diana's death, where they said, we are not going to continually publicly invoke our mother because we need to let her rest in peace. But to prove his pathetic point about the media, he's done it here again. Kinsey, watch this and we'll react off the back.
Other victims of hacking that I've spoken to have described the paranoia that it creates. Do you identify with that?
I think paranoia it's a very interesting word because, yes, then it could be paranoia. But then when you're vindicated, it proves that you weren't being paranoid. Same with my mother. There is evidence to suggest that she was being hacked in the mid-90s, probably one of the first people to be hacked. And yet, still today, the press, the tabloid press, very much enjoy painting her as being paranoid. But she wasn't paranoid. She was absolutely right of what was happening to her. And she's not around today to find out the truth.
Does your mother motivate you in this legal fight?
There's all sorts of things that motivate me.
While it's never been proven in court that Princess Diana was hacked, the past remains raw.
Kinsey, so much to say about this because the critical point is, yes, Diana was subjected to the most vicious and vile intrusions by the tabloid media. There is absolutely zero evidence that she was ever phone hacked. We know they did it differently back in the 90s because they were recording conversations that took place on landlines, but that's different to phone hacking. And what's happened here, Kinsey, is that Harry is believing his truth again. He's been told something by a group of lawyers who want to believe that every person in history has ever been phone hacked because it helps their case. And he's decided to put it out there as a fact with literally no evidence to back it up.
Well, I mean, this is a common thing we see with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They utilize Princess Diana to justify their causes and the horrors she went through. When you think back on that Netflix documentary and Harry's talking about all the harassment Meghan received, there aren't videos of Meghan Markle being accosted by paparazzi being shown throughout that conversation. It's the Princess of Wales, Princess Diana. It's the Princess of Wales, Catherine, that you're seeing video of with the paparazzi flashbulbs going off. They constantly use Princess Diana to prop up or to justify their arguments and to justify their behavior, and oftentimes their bad behavior. But it's like you said, technology has changed. We all heard the Squidgy Gate tape, but that's not the same.
No.
And I do think that I think that this is just another example of them using Diana, who is globally loved. You know, there has been, similar to the Kennedy family, that Camelot myth built around the Kennedy family. The same can be said for Princess Diana, who called a lover over 300 times one night and hung up on him. You know, she is now looked on as this Mother Teresa character. I love her, but I understand that she had her problems too. And Harry and Meghan try to utilize that brand, that glowing love we have for his mother, to get away, to get people to agree with them.
Oh yeah, it's constant, isn't it? It's absolutely constant, the way that they invoke Diana both publicly and privately. I mean, you revealed the brilliantly bonkers but also really disturbing story that during the Jubilee, what was it, Meghan claimed that Diana had told her during her yoga session that it was the right thing to come to the UK. I mean, all of this is just mad.
Yes, Diana speaking to Meghan while she was likely in the downward dog position, something I've never wanted to that mental image is seared in my brain, Dan. So I apologize for doing the same to you. Yeah. But at some point they've got to let her go, and they've got to become their own people.
But they're not going to do that. I just feel sorry for William because he made this pact with Harry. It was very clear. Wait. Oh, yes, you go.
Yeah, Dan, I was thinking that during the interview. Why was it that we only saw Prince William coming out fist swinging after the Martin Bashir investigation? We did not see Prince Harry come out swinging during the Martin Bashir investigation. Why do we pick and choose what we're irate about? Because that Martin Bashir interview was absolutely devastating to Prince William at the time and to the British royal family.
I know, but Harry had split from William on that as well, because you'll remember he actually spoke about and used footage of the Panorama interview in his Netflix documentary. And of course, Netflix, his employer, made an entire episode of their TV drama, The Crown, around that. So even when it comes to the Panorama interview, you have William and Harry thinking different things.
When it benefits him, Dan. Watch closely.
Oh, totally. Him. When it benefits him, he has no care in the world about media intrusion. And you'll notice it's a very, very small part of the media that he attacks, Kinsey. It's the UK tabloids that have kept him honest in the past. And it's folk like Piers Morgan and me who have reported stories that he doesn't like. And we're not going to shut up just because of his legal threats. And that's what he doesn't like. But look, the most shameful part of this entire new ITV interview, Kinsey, and I'm so disgusted by this, is when he tries to claim, and this is clearly aimed at William and Charles, even though he doesn't name them, but he tries to claim that his family, the royal family, no longer cares about service and serving the people because they won't join him in his deranged fight against the media. Watch this.
To what extent do you think that your determination to fight the tabloids destroyed the relationship with your family?
I think there's, that's certainly a central piece to it. But you know, that's a hard question to answer, because anything I say about my family results in a torrent of abuse from the press. I've made it very clear that this is something that needs to be done. It would be nice if we did it as a family. I believe that, again, from a service standpoint, and when you're in a public role, that these are the things that we should be doing for the greater good. But I'm doing this for my reasons.
What do you think of their decision not to fight in the way that you have?
I think everything that's played out has shown people what the truth of the matter is. For me, the mission continues, but it's caused, as you say, part of a rift.
I mean, shame on Rebecca Barry, by the way, because she makes it very clear where she stands and where ITV stands on the royal family. But Kinsey, there is a good reason why the royal family doesn't join spurious commercial legal actions against media organizations based on activities from years ago.
I mean, to talk about this being an act of service, you and Hugh Grant fighting because somebody hacked your phones. Harry, on Skid Row, the most infamous homeless sector of downtown Los Angeles, 8% of those homeless are veterans. That is a lot. Go help the veterans on Skid Row. That is service. To help your buddy Hugh Grant financially because he was violated years ago by the tabloid press is not a global act of service. And, treat people how you want to be treated. Harry and Meghan's issues with the British royal family are not about race. They aren't about Harry and Meghan being more popular. They aren't about Harry being braver than his father or brother for taking on the tabloid media. Harry and Meghan's issues with the royal family stem from the disrespectful way the Sussexes treated the people around them. It started with the staff at Kensington Palace, and when Prince William tried to rectify the situation and fight for the littler guy, those people that work at Kensington Palace make pennies.
Yes.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle changed their attitude towards members of the royal family and started disrespecting them as well. This has nothing to do with Prince Harry being the lone soldier fighting the big bad tabloids for his celebrity friends. This has everything to do with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle disrespecting the institution, disrespecting members of Prince Harry's family.
Totally. And I should also say Catherine tried to stand up to Meghan on behalf of the staff of Kensington Palace as well. She called Meghan out for the way that she was speaking to staff too. But the thing is, Kinsey, it's about the fact that Harry can even think that he is conducting a life of service at all now. He's not. And that's fine, but he's conducting a life of commercialism. Everything Harry and Meghan do, including the Invictus Games, by the way, is all about the big bucks, the moolah, the money. That's it. William and Charles and Camilla and Catherine and Anne and Edward are the ones who are conducting service on a daily basis. So I just think for him to criticize the royal family for not serving the public is the height of hypocrisy and ludicrous ridiculousness, but it also just shows how far this guy has fallen into his own delusions, Kinsey.
I mean, two of these people are suffering from horrific cancer right now, and they still show up. They still slap a smile on their face. I remember specifically reports that the king was told not to necessarily touch people because they were afraid that it might negatively affect his immune system. And there he was, allowing people to kiss him, touching them. I mean, very much engaged with the public, because it's important for, I believe it's personally important that for both the king and the Princess of Wales, Catherine, that they show up, and that because they want to set an example for the country, and they want other people to do, to show up and to do their very best. That's not the same. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they hide for months at a time. They reemerge when they need to make a buck. And I don't even know what Prince Harry's ultimate objective is here, except he's trying to rebrand himself instead of being some guy obsessed with his Todger within the books of Spare to some unsung hero taking on the British tabloids for himself. The
on
little
a battle
guy,
that has already been won. That's the point. It's
and it
over.
doesn't affect us. It does not affect the little guy. Who cares?
Totally. Who cares about the rich and the famous getting some nasty stories written about them? And by the way, I say that as someone who, because I'll just clarify this.
Oh my gosh, that is the truth.
Worked in tabloids for years. I said under oath, by the way, at the Leveson inquiry, that I was never involved in phone hacking, never used private investigators, never broke the law. There are lots of good journalists, right, within tabloid newspapers. This was a rotten bunch for a very short period of time. It doesn't happen anymore. And Harry is, as usual, conducting a straw man argument. But look, Kinsey, stand by. We've got loads more, and I'm going to reunite you, I know you love him, with the brilliant Father Calvin Robinson in just one moment, because Meghan Markle, I can't believe this, planning to wade into the US election race. Come on, who wants her endorsement? So stand by, Kinsey. Calvin's joining us in a second. But first, What's so important about being independent is I'm only going to tell you about products that I use and truly believe in. So I am so happy to talk today about Verso. You may know I've entered my 40s and am trying to stay as healthy as possible. I still like to live a good life, but I am exercising every day, taking my nutrition seriously, and I'm doing the 16-8 fast too. But that only gets me so far. Scientists like David Sinclair have proven we can now reverse aging with interventions that go beyond healthy habits. So for me, I wanted a product that I knew would enhance everything I was already doing, that is backed up with solid evidence. So I love Cellbeing by Verso, and I know you will too. This is a scientifically proven product with ingredients that fight the effects of aging by increasing NAD+ levels, which is the stuff that powers every cell in your body. I've been personally taking this now for a number of months. I do it right at the start of the day. It's been transformative for me. Like fasting is easier, I'm losing fat, eating less too, and the team at Verso tell me that's due to its blood sugar regulating effects, sleeping better as well. So I'd love you to experience this, and Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch produced to guarantee you are getting what you paid for. And because Verso was my first ever sponsor here on Outspoken, if you head right now to buy.ver.so/outspoken, you will save 15% on your first order. All you need to do is use the coupon code Outspoken. I'm going to pop the link right now, or I think I've already done it actually in our YouTube and Rumble descriptions. But just to repeat, it's buy.ver.so/outspoken and using the coupon code Outspoken. But now, back to the show, and my superstar panel are now together. The superb Father Calvin Robinson and the best royal expert out of the US of A, and now the host of the brilliant Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered YouTube channel, which I have to say is absolutely must watch, Kinsey Schofield. So look, great to have you both together, and I want to talk, Kinsey, about your revelation that Meghan Markle is planning to endorse Kamala Harris. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's the classic you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. By Meghan Markle endorsing Kamala Harris, then Kamala has to do something for Meghan in the future. And we know, thanks to Thomas Markle, I know you're close to the Markle family, that political aspirations run deep with Meghan Markle. This is the perfect opportunity for Meghan to insert herself in the election, because she worked with Kamala in 2020 through digital campaigns, doing conferences online to promote females voting, talking about how important it was in the 2020 election. You heard her, subtly endorse Joe Biden during that Time 100 special on ABC, saying it was time for the American people to have change. They deserved change. Well, Donald Trump was president at the time, so the obvious change was to vote for Joe Biden. I don't think that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were going to step up for Joe Biden again. He was clearly on the decline, but Kamala Harris changes the game for Meghan Markle and allows her an in, which she is so desperate for, gives her credibility, and it gives Kamala the cool factor too. I know that we look at the both of them and recoil, but there is a percentage of Americans out there that buy the BS. Okay, unfortunately, they exist. So Kamala sees them as a fundraising opportunity, an incredible fundraising opportunity. Fun headlines, and for Meghan Markle, it's a way to be involved in something potentially historic. The first female American president. How can she insert herself? Classic Meghan Markle.
But Calvin, isn't there something else going on here? I mean, I agree with all of that analysis from Kinsey, but isn't the other thing going on, Calvin, that Donald Trump threatens their very way of life, potentially threatens their ability to stay in the USA because of Prince Harry lied on his immigration forms about taking illegal drugs, which he has admitted in Spare. There's even the chance that Trump could deport him.
He could, but I think this is all really and truly down to Meghan Markle looking at what can be unburdened by what has been. Obviously, I joke, but this is the problem in that Kamala has been so cringe for so long. And all of a sudden, mainstream media in the US is talking about how cool she is. From cringe to cool, I saw a headline today. She hasn't gone cool. And this is why they're roping in people like Meghan Markle to almost endorse
Charlie
her
XCX.
as cool. It's gaslighting. It's lying to the American public and say she is now cool. You will believe that she is now cool. She's no longer cringe. She's no longer a massive left-wing radical who pushed through everything the same as Joe Biden. She's no longer on that path. She is something different when we know that's not the truth. But this is what the mainstream media does. It lies to us constantly, doesn't it? And I think you're right. Yes. There is a bit of anti-Trumpism, a bit of Trump derangement syndrome in there. And the Markles do have to be careful with that. But ultimately, I think that Kinsey's right on this and that Meghan Markle has spotted him in. And if Kamala Harris becomes US president, she has a best friend in the White House. And that's all, the power and influence is all Meghan Markle has ever been after. Can you imagine a friend more powerful or influential than the president of America and the leader of the free world?
Of course, and while we might think this is a ludicrous notion, remember, Meghan Markle still believes that she's going to be president one day. And she really believes that. Now, will it happen? She's quite damaged now in so many ways. Is she prepared to put the work in? Who knows? But that's what she wants. And obviously, there's loads of ways that Kamala Harris, who's clearly quite a dense woman in a lot of ways, will think that introducing someone like Meghan to her White House, I'm not saying in a cabinet role or anything like that, but there are certain task forces that she could lead, certain ways to bring her into the mix. You know, you could say, oh, let's set something up about online trolling, which is Meghan's big thing, even though I have to always point out her Sussex squad are the biggest gang of internet trolls online. So there's an irony there. But you know what I mean, Kinsey? There's probably some sort of job in a Kamala Harris White House for Meghan Markle.
And, you know, we know Meghan's already put in some work there. Remember when she was calling senators all over the country using the name, hi, this is Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And people were like, how did you get my phone number? Like they were very confused. This was her campaigning for more paid time off for mothers, I believe, at the time. Look, the hypocrisy continues to amaze. Meghan specifically calls herself a feminist. Kamala is definitely riding that train right now. She wants you to vote for her because she is a woman. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party has completely obliterated women's sports by allowing trans athletes to compete against biological women. So I could go over 500 other things about Kamala that concerns me. As a California prosecutor, she put over 1,500 people in jail for pot violations and then will laugh in your face if you ask her if she's ever smoked a blunt. You know, she withheld evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her hand. And RFK Jr. pointed out over the weekend that she kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. That's called slavery, guys. Like, you know, if you look up the definition of slavery, it sounds a lot like using somebody for cheap labor that you should have let out of jail already. Her only job as our vice president was to protect the border. 8 million people have come through the border. And security-wise in the States, that has jeopardized our security, one of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's favorite talking points. So it amazes me that Meghan and Harry would befriend these types of people. But at the end of the day, like Calvin said, power is the ultimate. They need money, they need power, and relationships like this will give it to them.
Beautifully put.
Let's not forget this is how they both came into power and influence in the first place. So Kamala Harris famously was a side chick of Montel Williams and kind of slept her way into politics, into being a public figure. And we could argue that, you know, Meghan Markle has done a very similar thing. But what I find interesting about all of this is the polls. Until this very week, until this very day, the polls have been against Kamala. She has been diving in them. In fact, she dropped out of the primary the last time around at the bottom of the polls. And now today, all of a sudden, the American pollsters are saying she's 4 points ahead of Trump. Now, if anyone believes that, I want to sell them a bridge.
Yeah, but believe me, the MSM are not going to stop because it is I don't know how you're coping with it, Kinsey, because it is wall-to-wall propaganda. But look, stand by, Father Calvin Robinson, because we have much more from you in our after show. Kinsey Schofield, thank you so much. I absolutely love your new YouTube channel, Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Brilliant interviews, such great analysis, and I really recommend everyone subscribe, and I hope you'll have me on soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Calvin, too. Love you.
You too. God bless.
But the
Bye.
good news is, Father Calvin isn't going anywhere. He's sticking around because we've got much more to discuss, including why Lady Colin Campbell's fundraising effort for Thomas Markle has absolutely soared since we revealed those details yesterday, and how Nadine Dorries has revealed the truth about the Tory plot to install a controlled leader of the opposition. But it's very important to me that we have a safe space not patrolled by big tech where we can have these sorts of uncensored conversations. So that's why I have launched www.outspoken.live. It's our membership section where you will get half an hour of extra content every single day. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble and move to our own platform for the rest of the Superstar panel with Calvin Robinson. And all you have to do is sign up at www.outspoken.live. Remember too, if you're watching right now on YouTube or Rumble, to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bells, because we have so much brilliant content, which I think you're going to love. And we are back live every weekday at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you. See you on the after show.